Okay, part 5. Destruction in their wake. They're also trying to promote, the Democrats, progressives, uh, a place where anti-creationist, anti-religion, atheist ideas are tolerated, accepted, and of course promoted, as we know from our slippery slope curve that they always want more and more and more, carve out more for themselves. And in order to do that, they have to not raise the value of atheism, but to destroy religion. They can't raise the value of atheism the way they're doing it. I happen to have some atheist tendencies myself, but I don't go and destroy religion to prove my point. If I'm right, I don't need to worry about what religion is doing. And that's true, the religious are doing. And that's true for about anything you can think of. If your point, your idea is of value, worthy enough, it should hold its own. You shouldn't have to destroy your competition or an opposing opinion in order for your opinion to hold water. Because if it can't hold water, your opinion's crap anyway. But they have to destroy religion. There is a war on Christianity. There's a war on religion from the left, despite the fact they're trying to pretend there's not. Nobody's going up, the atheists don't have any symbols, which is funny, coming from a group that loves symbolism over substance. Except for their little coexist bumper stickers. There's not a whole lot of atheist symbology. So there's nothing that can be torn down, or put up, I should say, on their behalf. So instead, they have to tear down the religious symbology, taking down crosses, trying to fight to knock down the biblical passages, the Ten Commandments. They put up a statue of the Ten Commandments. Next day, some idiot barrels it over with a truck. Did that Ten Commandments statue affect his life in any possible way, negatively or positively? No. But he felt compelled to knock it down with his truck. They destroy faith-based organizations. They destroy faith-based traditions. Most of the traditions of America, if not all countries, are based on religion, the Judeo-Christian ethic. Well, they've destroyed this ethic. They've destroyed the tenets of right and wrong, of acceptable behavior. It's all out the window. None of it matters anymore. My parents were Democrats from parents of Democrats, going back who knows how long. But they instilled in me certain conservative values, and one of them was doing the right thing, knowing your etiquette, what do you do in polite society, how you act, how you don't act, knowing all this stuff and making it instinctive and important in my life, treating others with respect, and in order to expect the same treatment from others. This stuff is out the door, folks. It's gone. This culture has destroyed it. There are a few people who still do the right thing every now and then. There's still people who still hold on to old traditions, old ethics and values and whatnot. But they want a valueless society. They want to. They've rooted it all out. They've gutted it. People do anything they want now. Sitting there in a restaurant when I was a kid, I don't care if it was a fast food restaurant or a fancy restaurant. People around you, children, young adults, any age, any ethnicity, any political bent. There were certain things they would do and not do. One thing is they didn't curse, except by accident, pardon my French, ma'am, in polite society, in public. Now I walk into any restaurant, even a fairly fancy restaurant. And before, when it was my kids, now they've grown, but I see other families with kids in the next booth, and you got two dudes talking to each other, and they're saying the S word and the F word like it's no big deal. And the weird part is, no one seems to notice. What the hell? Fighting for social justice. You got your social justice warriors, as if we needed any. These colossal, glittering jewels of ignorance. All they've done is create hate groups that destroy. That's all they've done. Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Occupy Wall Street, which is now Occupy Democrats, whatever. Occupy this. All you've done is create hate groups. That's all you've done. You say, oh, look, there's a bunch of hate groups out there, so what do? Do I calm them down? Do I prove my point so their points are invalid? No. What am I going to do? I'm going to create my own hate groups and do battle with them. And that doesn't cause diversity, or division. That doesn't cause polarity and polarization. Yeah, kind of does. And now you're as hypocritical, a typical hypocrite, because now you're doing the same thing you blame them for doing. And the point, if there ever really was one, or one of value, is lost. I'm not paying attention to your point. I'm paying attention to the club in your hand. The mask over your face. I'm paying attention to the window on the storekeeper's shop you just broke, or the car you just lit on fire. That's what I'm paying attention to. I have no idea what the hell you want, because it's lost in your mayhem. Social justice. Fight to modernize the culture. Modernize the culture. This is part of that change for the sake of change. To take away and strip all the traditions out of culture and make them more up to date. So what do? We destroy decency. Like I said, we're cursing in public. Women who used to be more in tune, I guess, I'm not sure what the right phrase is, about keeping things civil by minding their P's and Q's. I don't mean women, people. They were more in tune of watching and making sure people, men and women, children, minded their P's and Q's, treated people with respect, didn't curse in public, did the right thing. They were almost like the safeguard, the watchdogs of men who got out of control or became too, rowdy. Now women are fighting. Now they're cursing like longshoremen. You see these videos on the news during protests. They're more vile and violent than men are. Women. What the hell happened to women? What happened to femininity? It's been destroyed as much as they're trying to destroy masculinity. They've removed all the taboos, all the things that used to be no-nos, lines that we never used to cross. You would never do this in public. You would never do this to another person. Now it's like, whatever. The sanctity of life doesn't exist anymore. Certain sacred things thrown out, thrown down the toilet, thrown out the window. All formality in culture is gone. My sister shared a video that was fascinating a week ago. That came, I think, from the History Channel or someplace, of some really old film from 1906, I think. I don't remember what town it was. It maybe wasn't really important. Of just folks in the middle of a city, fairly large city. It might have been New York, I think. It might have actually been New York. I think it was New York. Just walking around on the sidewalks, in the streets, the cars, some people had some dogs, some people walking around, and there was a train going by, and different videos showing different aspects of life 112 years ago. And I was struck by something that reminded me of a thought I have on occasion when talking about the lack of decency in our society and lack of formality in our society. This was the middle of the day. I don't know if it was a work day or a weekend. It may not even matter. Every single woman was either in a skirt or a dress. Every single man had a jacket, if not a tie, and a hat. Every one of them. Even the kids in the short pants had a jacket, and some of them even had a tie or a ribbon at their collar. And then you say to yourself, think about this. Go forward in time. It doesn't have to be 1906. Just, when we moved from the country to the city, when the Great Migration from an agricultural society to an industrial society and a manufacturing society, etc. The Great Migration into the cities that occurred in the turn of the last century. But just move forward. 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even the 60s to some degree. Men were wearing hats. Men wore ties in public. You didn't get on an airplane wearing a t-shirt. You didn't go to a restaurant in shorts. Well, you still can't in some cases. But you had a suit. You had a tie. And restaurants had a hat check girl. And if you walked into a place that required a tie and didn't have one, they would give you one to put on. Look at culture today. People walking into the middle of, going onto an airplane in something that you wouldn't be caught dead in your own house, let alone in public. People going to a fancy restaurant in t-shirts, not even a button shirt. Forget about jacket and tie. It doesn't even have buttons on it. What the hell has happened to formality in this country, in this whole world? We are the most casual society in history. I don't think there's been a time in history when there hasn't been at least some element, some part of society that was sacred enough that you didn't disrespect it by underdressing or acting out or cursing or doing things that were taboo. There is nothing in our culture left today sacred enough that anything doesn't go. Where people almost accept, tolerate, if not promote, the worst in human behavior and the worst in casual, who gives a damn what people think, because no one's allowed to judge me anymore behavior. And you don't think this has a deleterious effect on our culture and our society? I got news, folks. When you lower standards that far, you're in trouble. And we are in trouble. On that score, in that regard, we are in lots of trouble. We don't hold anything sacred. We don't hold anything dear. We don't hold anything as important enough to do something that requires a little extra effort to show respect. We're lost. We are lost, folks. And guess whose idea this all was? You think the conservative had anything to do with this? Give me a break. This has got progressivism and liberalism written all over it. It's their culture, folks. They own it. They tried to educate children. Okay, well, everyone's tried to educate children. They've tried to change the way we educate children. And the implementation has been nothing but abhorrent. Since the early days of the last century, when the progressives have decided they wanted to indoctrinate our children by virtually federalizing and nationalizing education in this country, and succeeded in both getting a Department of Education, growing the administrative government ever bigger, and getting teachers' unions like the NEA to organize, we have been all the worse for it. And since those two things coalesced in the 40s and then the 50s, all the education in this country has gone from way up here, where we led the world in many things, SAT scores, science and math skills, all the way down here. I don't believe in coincidences, folks. That is not a coincidence. They've created the indoctrination of our children, which really requires a whole video by itself, is unprecedented. Entire generations of kids growing up not understanding the values that we used to hold, the economic values, cultural values that we used to hold, instead being indoctrinated as a group to think as a group. In fact, being taught group think, and being taught that anything or anybody who speaks about something outside of this belief system is to be ostracized, pushed away, or dealt with. Ignoring entire parts of history, entire important parts of capitalism and its value to the world, and America's value to the world. They are turned into lemmings that and automatons that have no creative ability, no ability to think critically about anything. It's all in order to improve or increase the numbers of Democrat and socialist voters, progressive voters, when they get of age. It's the whole reason that we're nationalizing education. You think it was to make them smarter? Well, clearly it wasn't that, because we ain't. I just used the word ain't to show how less smart we... Never mind. We're clearly not smarter. We've lost ground. So if that wasn't the reason, then the only logical reason was to take control of education for ulterior motives. What could it possibly have been? Maybe so we can not have to worry about changing the hearts and minds of adults. Because if we change the hearts and minds of the more impressionable minds of mush as children, then they become Democrats as adults, and we won't have to worry about them? So, lower test scores, groupthink, no critical thinking. We've dumbed down society. Good job, Dems. Too dumb to know that they're being hosed by Democrats. Maybe that was the point. In the next part, we'll talk about helping illegal aliens. Yes, folks, we're leaving no stone unturned on this one.